my mind, get hung up, feed the ducks with a bun. They all come out to groove about, be nice and have fun in the sun.
Hey, welcome back to the Ray Lucia Show. I'm John Bam Ransom, filling in but not replacing the great man himself. He's going to be back with us to answer your questions, some of the smartest money questions on both Biz TV and on the radio. We have with us right now to answer some more money questions, to very important money questions, Lyn Rowe, CFP, and she's going to talk a little bit about the changing face of long-term care. Long-term care is a very, very hot topic because people are living longer, and the probability that they're going to need some sort of long-term care, at least for a couple of years, is rising with every year that goes by, isn't it?
It's absolutely true, John. You know, the fastest growing segment of our population today is over 90. Can you believe that?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I've heard that from gerontologists for the last, I want to say 5 or 6 years. But the reality is we're going back in terms of long-term care to what it used to be like. In other words, you know, in family generations past, there were large families, people were rural, they lived out in the suburbs, and it wasn't as fast-paced. So the family cared oftentimes for an older family member. But now you've got, you know, 2 parents who are putting their sons and daughters through college. They are paying enormous sums of money for that, plus trying to live, plus they're in their peak years of saving for their own retirement. And they just simply cannot take on one more thing in their lives, stop everything, and all of a sudden be a caregiver. And yet, I actually talked to a group of caregivers here recently, John.
Right.
And that group of caregivers listened to me say, this is what happens before you arrive, and they were all agreeing with me. They came to me and told me story after story.
And that's the thing, because it's tempting to believe that we can dial the clock back to the 19th century where you know, there are multi-generations living in a household, so everybody can take care of grandpa, but that's not the reality. I mean, our heart tells us that's what we want to do. We want to be the one who takes care of grandpa, but the truth of the matter is even from a physical standpoint, we just can't do it.
Well, and that's what I encountered, is that people are frankly, they're trying to do that. It's called the I Love You Truly long-term care plan. I actually had a financial planner call me the other day and say, what do you say when a husband says, she's my long-term care? I mean, you know.
Meaning the wife.
Yeah, pointing to his wife and saying, she's my long-term care plan. Well, you know, first of all, I mean, the guy might weigh, what, 180, 200 pounds? When was the last time she bench pressed 200 pounds?
Right.
Let alone dead weight. So you've got a lot of physical considerations to take into account, but these financial planners are dealing with that when they try to broach the subject, and I broach it every single day, multiple times a day. But these caregivers that I talked to said the same thing. They come into the situation after the wife has literally exhausted herself. She's short-tempered because she hasn't gotten enough sleep. She really doesn't have good judgment because she's so fatigued and so stressed. One of the kids is probably in the same boat because she called one of the kids, and
for respite care,
and only one of the kids stepped up to the plate, which is often the case. And then you've got strife in the family. I mean, these caregivers are walking into this kind of volatile situation, trying to be the caregiver after everybody said uncle and called somebody in professionally.
Well, and there is no good reason for it, because there are, with a little bit of foresight, there is an easy solution. Like every solution, I mean, it does cost some money, but in the whole scheme of things, it does make your life better, which is what it's about, right?
Well, and if the family knows that you have the long-term care insurance, John, they will use it. They won't try to do it themselves for you know, a year or two and then say, oh gosh, Dad had long-term care insurance. They will call that company first thing. They'll get referrals to caregivers who can take care of somebody at home, and 70% of those claims to the insurance companies today are home care. So if you want to stay at home, this is the best plan.
So one of the things that you could do too, I mean, you know, we always expect, well, okay, so I'm going to retire, you're going to retire, we should have our own long-term care, but if you have a parent, okay, you might think, hey, maybe I should buy a long-term care policy for my parent. That way I can make sure that I have peace of mind, they're taken care of. That's the really, I truly, truly, truly do love you plan, right?
Exactly. And you know what's interesting is those home care plans, even if the parent comes to live with you, which is oftentimes the case,
Sure.
you can still have the home care plan take effect and have a professional caregiver taking care of your parent those 8 hours a day or 5 hours a day, so you can get some things done, so you can have a life.
Well, and you also get the, I mean, I think a lot of people just want to have their parent around. So you still get that, but
Yes.
you get, but I mean, let's face
Quality.
it, not all of us are,
Yeah.
able to, take care of catheters and stuff like that. I mean, you want professional quality care, don't
Exactly
you?
right. Exactly right.
I mean, many of these things that people are dealing with long-term care to begin with, they have real healthcare needs that have to be met by a professional.
Exactly right. Yeah. When we think of long-term care and we haven't been exposed to it, it's unrealistic to think that mom's just going to cook up some soup. That's not just,
Right.
There's so much more to it than fixing you lunch. So much more. And you're absolutely right. I mean, there's the not so pretty side of being a caregiver. And I've actually heard family members say about their sibling who is taking care of their parent, I don't like the way she talks to him.
Right.
Well, yeah, she's worn out. She's
Yeah, of course.
exhausted. She's short-tempered. She's lost, they've lost the relationship. The daughter and the son are no longer, or father are no longer daughter and father. They're caregiver and, list of chores.
Right. Right. And for me personally, I use the long-term care thing. I threaten my son with it. Like, I'll cancel the long-term care policy, and you're going to be stuck taking care of me.
Be nice to me.
But yeah,
my premium's coming.
The reverse is, at what point should you start thinking about this? I mean, so it's not just something that you need to think about for yourself. You need to think about it for your parents too.
I truly think thinking about it for your parents is enormous. I have a client now who's just gotten it for his folks and his in-laws, because he said it's protecting our lives and protecting their lives, because they're X miles away from us and we would be worried. We wouldn't be able to just drop everything and go
Well, what do
there.
you say to those people who say, well, but it's just so expensive. I can't, I
Make
can't
it fit the
afford it.
budget. Same old story. If you go to buy a car and you need a car, you're not going to go look at the Lamborghini. You're not going to say, what does a car cost? You're going to say, here's how much I have to spend. Show me a car that fits that budget.
Give me an idea what the statistics look like for people who are aging now. I mean, how many of us are truly going to need long-term care?
Well, with a couple over 65, 70%. That's a huge statistic.
That's a near certainty.
3 out of 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a couple.
And a couple.
Right.
One member of the couple.
70% chance, one member of the couple. And how long is the average?
Well, and that's a good question.
I know it's changing.
Here's the reality. When we had the panel of CEOs of all the major carriers this last year in the symposium, we asked them the same question, and they said, you got a 50-50 chance. Less than a year, over 4. Look at the family history and figure that part out.
Hey, I'm John Ransom, filling in but not replacing the great man himself, Ray Lucia, on the Ray Lucia Show. If you want to ask any money questions, go to raylucia.com. That's raylucia.com. We're going to be back with Lyn Rowe, and we're going to talk a little bit about the affordability and how you can pay for some long-term care. We'll be back right after this. Were you trying to make me cry? Because it's kind of a sad song. Hey, I'm John Bam Ransom, filling in but not replacing the great Ray Lucia. Ray's going to be coming up with us to answer your money questions in just a little bit. If you want to get him, you can get him at the San Mateo Marriott on July 11th at 8 a.m. The Accredited Investor Summit. That's accreditedinvestorsummit.com. You can also call 888-629-1299. Lyn, are you going to be at the Accredited Investor Summit?
I was not planning on it, but it's going to be close by, so I might just do that.
Okay, great.
Might pop in.
888-629-1299. That's 888-629-1299. $12.99. Hey, so we're talking a little bit about the changing face of long-term care. It's becoming more and more important because people are living longer. They're spending more time with long-term care issues. Used to be we just dropped dead of a heart attack and then that was it.
Exactly. Those things don't happen anymore.
They don't happen anymore.
I mean, we talked about this on the break, John. If somebody has a stroke, I mean, people say, well, if I get that bad, just bump me off. Well,
smother me with a pillow.
Exactly. The only thing is, how many times have you seen or heard of family members who've had a stroke and they have perfect ability to think and communicate and so forth? They just can't do it the same way. They can't do the physical things, or the communication might be different because they can't get the words out, but at the same time, the mind is sharp. And those people do not want to die.
Well, and you want to be able to, I mean, that's the last thing, really. The option of, well, just let me die is probably not, I mean, even if you grant.
Let me starve to death?
Yeah, even if you grant that that's a legitimate choice, and I don't grant that that's a legitimate choice, you want to be able to have the choice, right?
Exactly.
That can't be your only option.
Make that choice.
Right, right. Yeah. So let's talk about how somebody affords long-term care at this point.
Well, there's so many things that people can do. I mean, you can look at the budget and you can say, okay, we're going to be taking our Social Security in a couple years. We should go ahead and maybe take that, even though we don't need it, and use that to pay for our care, or our long-term care insurance, or our parents. They might look at their portfolio, and Ray and I have gone through this a number of times, where they can tweak some of the investments. Let's say their bucket 3 is too conservative. They can tweak that and maybe get some income in there that's a little bit higher. And generate a cash flow. They can do lots of things. I mean, cars get paid off, kids stop, they graduate from college. I mean, there's money that gets freed up generally at that point in life that people can do it.
So I mean, if you're, a younger couple in their 40s, and your parents are closer, and your parents are closer to retirement, and you're concerned about this, how do people get in touch with you to figure out? I mean, you don't need to talk to your parents first, right?
Right.
This is something that you can start to talk to a financial planner about.
And I can do family meetings. I've done many of those. 877-270-3127 is the phone number. 877-270-3127.
And you can always go to iwantmyltc.net.
Safety net.
Safety net. It's a safety net. Okay, so that would be step number 1 is go ahead and make the phone call, go to the website, make an appointment, figure out what your options really are.
Yes.
And the longer you wait, the worse it really is for you, because it's never going to get less expensive, right?
It's never going to get less expensive. Plus, the other thing that insurance companies have done over the years, like everybody else, what do they call that? Stealth increases. Okay, stealth increases with insurance is the new product, when the old one gets closed out that had all the great bells and whistles, is less for more.
Right.
Costs more, less benefit.
Well, just like everything else. I mean, when we see a demand, and there is demand, more and more demand for this product, you're going to see price increases. So the quicker you lock something in, especially when you know that other people are going to want this, you want to be at the front of the line.
Exactly.
On Christmas or on Thanksgiving. Day after Thanksgiving, when it comes to Black Friday, you want to be at the front of the line, not at the back of the line.
Exactly.
Right?
And I've talked to many people, brought their older policies to me and said, is this thing still good? Should I keep it? And I can tell you 99.999% of the time, those policies are worth keeping because they have benefits you can't buy anymore. You can't touch them.
Right.
They might have a lifetime benefit. They might have definitions like 7 ADLs instead of 6. I mean, there's just so many things. And what we have today is going to be great. 10, 15 years from now, you're going to look back and say, boy, am I glad I got that.
So when you're sitting down and you're doing kind of your financial plan, I mean, you're not just thinking about, well, I mean, it's not just enough to say, well, I've got my own long-term care taken care of. You really have to think about your loved ones too, whether because a lot of it just is asset protection, because if, God forbid, a wife or a husband would have to drop out of the workforce at a certain point to take care of a parent. And it's, as you mentioned before, it's not just your parents, it's your spouse's parents too.
Yeah.
So we go back to those statistics you're talking about. 70% chance with a couple times 2
Right.
is pretty much a certainty that somebody is going to need care, and that's all you need is one out of 4.
Exactly. Now, here's the changing face of long-term care, John. It's gone full circle. We're trying to do it ourselves again, but we don't have the resources to do it ourselves. We don't have 6, 7, 8 kids at home and some grandkids around and the cousins. We don't have that kind of family to do that anymore. And it becomes a real burden when you've got 1 or 2 people who can step up to the plate.
Well, and not to mention the fact that the types of maladies that people have today largely were untreatable.
Much more sophisticated.
Well, they were largely untreatable. We didn't
Yes.
prolong people's lives. Medically, we could not prolong people's lives as much. They usually would die, and so it's just a demographic fact that as we live longer, we are going to spend more time with long-term care, and you really need to have insurance for it. Because it's even worse than like not insuring your house against fire, because there's really a much more certain period of time that you're going to need this.
In the insurance world, John, they call disability for the working person the living death. And that's because somebody cannot do for themselves, but they are thinking clearly, and they're thinking, gosh, I used to be able to, and I could work a business, and I did this and I did that, and they're just frustrated because they can't do for themselves anymore.
Right.
It's the same thing when somebody's older. You just have to recognize that sometimes when that age creeps in, it's just frailty. It can sometimes be just plain old frailty.
Right, and you really do have to count on it now. Is there a particular age that you want it, just for yourself, you want to start thinking? What's an optimal age you want to start thinking about this?
I am encouraging people in their 40s to do it, primarily because 1 out of 5 are being turned down for health issues, and 1 out of 4, 50 to 59 are being turned down for health issues, and 1 out of 4, 60 to 69 are being turned down for health issues. That's a lot of people that can't get it simply because something got diagnosed earlier than they used to be able to diagnose this.
Right. So if you're in your 40s, you buy how long is the policy in force if you're in your 40s?
As long as you pay the premiums.
Yeah. So the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So it's one time, then you forget it, and you lock in the cheapest payment too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
even with and people have talked about, well, what about when it goes up? Even when it goes up, it's less than buying a new one later. Far less.
Because it's really just an actuary. I mean, they're sitting down and they're figuring out the percentages. So
Yeah.
they're not going to like bring you in and then jack up your rates unreasonably. They just want to make sure that they make a little bit of money off that.
They want to make sure those reserves are healthy because they have to pay those claims. $4 of reserves for every dollar they promise. That's the law. So they have to keep those reserves healthy.
Yes, they do have to keep the reserves healthy. Again, they can go to iwantmyltc.net.
Yes.
What's the phone number?
877-270-3127.
And again, it's for anybody. If you are worried about your own long-term care and you're not set up, but if you have your own long-term care and there's somebody else you're worried about, whether it's parents or in-laws or whoever it is, you can go ahead and take care of that too, right?
And let's make it affordable. Don't wrap yourself around trying to get the coverage. Let the coverage protect you instead.
Right, and it's always better to have it than to not have it. And again, when you cite this,
better than none.
Well, but this is the thing: is a lot of people will use the excuse, "But what if I never need it?" But this is a product. Really, the chances are you are gonna. I mean, it's better than like insurance for like a hurricane or something like that, because
Earthquake insurance in California is very expensive.
Right.
I know a lot of people that have it, but we haven't had an earthquake like that in many years.
Well, and you may not ever use it,
but the one time you need it.
Right, the one time you need
my
it.
gosh.
But this is even worse because
The statistics are so high.
And they're not getting better.
No.
In fact, we're living longer. As you said, the number one age group that's going up the fastest,
90 plus.
years old plus right now. So make sure, go ahead, iwantmyltc.net, iwantmyltc.net. One more phone number?
877-270-3127.
Hey, give Lyn a call right now. Take care of the ones that take care of you. Use the I truly, really, I mean it, do love you program that Lyn offers. Don't rely just on sentiment. take care of this. Hey, I'm John Bam Ransom, filling in but not replacing the great man himself, Ray Lucia. He's going to be back after the jump and take your email questions right after this. This is the Ray Lucia Show on a Manic Monday.